Hello, Visionary Tribe of Entheo Nation. This is Lorna Liana here today with a visionary couple who's going to share with us the book that they have written about their quest for a visionary, obscure, and sacred plant medicine called Iboga from Central West Africa. And so I'm here today with Chor Boogie, who is a world-renowned spray paint artist, color shaman, and Renaissance psychonaut. His partner, Elizabeth Bast, serves as a writer, poet, yoga teacher, fusion temple dancer, and musician. Now, Elizabeth's book, Heart Medicine, tells the story of their quest for Iboga as their bid to find the cure to Chor's addiction and to save their marriage. So thank you so much for being here with me today, Chor and Elizabeth, and to share with us your story.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you so much for having us, Lorna.
So I would love to hear about how your journey with Iboga began.
Sure. Well, a little over 2 years ago, Chor confessed to me that he had had a heroin relapse. And we'd been together a long time at that point. We'd been together 6 years, and he was sober when I met him, militantly sober. And I saw a very long-term, slow change, the reintroduction of alcohol and ultimately heroin. And at that time, you know, I took a day of just really being in shock, and in the back of my mind, really buried under a lot of layers, I remembered Iboga. In that moment, I couldn't even remember how I knew about it or where I'd heard about it. It came from the depths, and that led me to a quest of research, and there was a lot of fear and a lot of questions, and there were moments I didn't know that we'd make it there, but that's how it started. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd heard that it was very effective for addiction, specifically opiate addiction, among others. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I met a couple of guys in Thailand who were running an Ibogaine treatment center, and these guys were like party animals. And then they discovered Ibogaine, and basically both guys just totally cleaned up, got super healthy, they don't even drink anymore. It was amazing. So when I heard their story, I found myself to be really intrigued, and that's why I'm really interested to have more stories about Iboga and to hear about, you know, how to work with Iboga, especially around the treatment of really difficult addictions, because there are some types of drugs out there where once you become addicted, it seems like it's a lifelong struggle to stay, you know, on the wagon. So Chor, I would love for you to share with us what your experience has been like as a heroin addict, because it sounded like you were quite strict and militant and on the wagon, and then you had a relapse. So if you can help us understand what it's really like for people that are struggling with this disease, and then also for you, Elizabeth, to share with us, you know, how it is as to witness your loved one struggling with this, because it doesn't just affect the person who's addicted, it affects their family and, you know, everyone around them. So, Chor, please share with us if you feel, if you feel inclined.
So when it comes to damaging your heart, mind, body, and soul with substances, it's like it's pretty much the worst thing you can ever do to you. And a brief history of myself is I was a addict at a young age, and was damaging myself at a young age. And then from there, like, jails, institutions, and death, all that stuff, took place in my life. And from there, it was like, I decided to take it upon myself, well, through the help of a recovery system, to get clean. And I stayed clean for like 13 years. And that's, and like Elizabeth put it, being militant about it. Yes, I was very, in love with my life at that point. And then, I built up my career, my art career and everything. And it started taking me to certain places and certain levels of my life that just exposed me back to that, you could say, demon. And once I did that, then, it over time, it just gradually grew back into heroin. And then from there, I knew I was going to lose everything. And I couldn't do that, especially my wife and mainly myself. I was going to lose myself and lose my career and lose everything. And so, like I said, I knew I wasn't going to stay there. So I confessed everything to my wife, and then and then Iboga all of a sudden came into the picture, and I heard about it 2 years prior to that, and from a friend of mine, but I didn't really care for it at that point. But if it was once I did the research and everything on it, then there was a calling there. There definitely was a calling there. But being an addict and dependent on a substance daily is
slavery.
Is a form of mental slavery, physical slavery. It is. It's not the truth. It's not your truth, and it's definitely designed to kill you, especially if you abuse it. You can put these certain like heroin and cocaine, certain substances into a plant medicine category, but if they're used in a different context, but they have been manipulated to the point where you become dependent on them. And like I said, I was doing it at a young age, and then grew out of it, found it again, because there was something in there that wasn't letting me let it go. And so, but once I found Iboga, or once we found Iboga, it was like, 24 hours transformation. One of the best things that ever happened in my life.
Wow. So I want to ask you, for those of you in the audience who aren't aware of what Iboga is, what is Iboga exactly? Is it a bark? Is it a root? Is it a tree?
Iboga is it's a plant medicine. It is a real plant medicine that comes from Gabon, Africa, and it is a root. It is the shavings of a root that take you to the spirit world. Let's just say that. And I can go into the whole story behind it and how it was founded and everything when it comes to the Bui tea, but wrapping it up in a nutshell, yes, it is a bark, and that's it, and it will take you to places that you have never gone before.
Wow.
And it's different from Ibogaine.
Oh, yeah.
Ibogaine is a
110%.
pharmaceutical extract of the single alkaloid that's very effective at detox. So that's more often held in the medical model that you'll find of treatment.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, I know, Dimitri, some people will use it with some guidance, shamanic guidance. And the Iboga has a whole complex chemical profile with multiple alkaloids that are working in concert. And
12.
that's more often held in the shamanic traditions, primarily the Bwiti, and it originated from the Pygmy people in Africa who shared it. They allowed it to go out.
Yeah.
So they've been using it for countless years, since prehistory. We don't really know exactly how long it's been in use, perhaps tens of thousands of years. We don't know. For initiation and spiritual awakening, and all different forms of healing. The shamans will use it to help them diagnose and to heal. But also every young person, as they're coming into adulthood, has an initiation ceremony. And to circle back to your question, Lorna, you were asking how it was for me, and witnessing it from the other side. And what I saw, you know, Chor is extremely passionate about his art. I've really never seen anybody work so hard. I would see him work on paintings and murals for 12 or 14 hours straight without eating or drinking, to the point where his hands are gnarled from this love of what he does, a genuine love for making art. But then I saw an overworking that was very dangerous, with a lack of balance for nutrition and rest and spiritual practice and connection. And then I saw the alcohol be reintroduced. And as soon as the alcohol came back in, I saw that he wasn't drinking in a healthy way. It was really excessive and dangerous, and I had to draw limits. And he began to drink more heavily on work trips. There was more and more travel, more and more work, more and more social gatherings with the mingling, and I saw this this teasing of the ego, which can happen as people become really accomplished with what they do, or some notoriety, and that's a lot for a human being to hold at times. So I saw it all spiral out. That was just my perception, and I began to feel just more and more concern, and yet love, and guided every day to stay. So, and then we made it from there. That I really didn't think I would ever be involved with a narcotics addict. I thought that I'm out. That would have me out in a second. And in that moment, when he confessed to me, I went into communion with Spirit. I just prayed. And the words were, pray, wait, and listen, that came to me. And that's what I did.
So when you started to do your research about Iboga, where did you finally end up deciding to do it? Because isn't it illegal in the United States?
It is. It's sadly, it's a Schedule 1 substance, which is supposedly no medical value and the highest criminal penalties. Even for Bwiti practitioners who, their tradition has been using it forever. Even for, the Ibogaine, it's illegal for medical professionals who are proficient. It's illegal for everyone. Research is illegal here, which is
It's
really
because it works. That's why.
It's because it works, and the pharmaceutical companies would lose all of their revenue from the ineffective alternatives that they provide.
People on methadone for 20 years or drug replacement therapy, and it definitely is participatory. It's not 100% sure thing, but that's what helps it to mature our consciousness. is that it is participatory. It takes preparation, participation, and integration. You know, there's a whole bigger picture to working with that medicine. So it is illegal here, and we looked at different Iboga clinics, and we also looked at some providers who were working with the shamanic model and the total alkaloid plant medicine. I read a lot of reviews, we looked at a lot of video testimonials, and ultimately we were going on intuition. You know, there's a lot of different kind of people in the world who can have success with different kinds of providers and different containers of treatment. And it's so important to do a lot of research on the facts, but then for us to move with our intuition.
Plus, I'm pretty hardcore, so I needed something hardcore to really get me back on track. You know?
What do you mean by hardcore? Like hardcore in a ceremonial standpoint, like 3 days of Iboga consumption, or hardcore just because of the medicine itself and how intense it is?
I take it to the extreme. I take it to the extreme when I'm everything, and I needed something extreme to put me back in my place.
Well, ultimately, we chose to go with a shaman named Mugenda.
Yeah.
From
my brother.
He is from Gabon, Africa, and what we learned from him, a 10th generation shaman. He's had
Bwiti shaman.
Multiple initiations since he was 12 years old.
Yeah.
And working with very old medicine that is grown in ceremony, that is processed in ceremony, that is sent in ceremony. He had then spent time in New York City and taught himself to work with addicts with a lot of experience. He was guided there by the medicine, and I appreciated that he had a sense of American and Western culture, that we could communicate with him very fluidly. I mean, that was a gift. So the bigger picture and some of the video testimonials from people coming out of there touched my heart and resonated very deeply. And one thing I talk about in the book is, you know, navigating when there are negative things said about a provider on the internet. Those aren't always pure and not always relevant, you know. So I had to navigate certain concerning things on the internet about him, and ultimately, you know, I think that happens to everyone at a certain point of shine in the world. You know, if you're doing what you need to do and getting a lot of attention and being very effective, you know, and it's not right for everybody. So I prayed about all of it, and the positive definitely overwhelms those negative bits, and I had to really question those, all sides of those things. So that's what led us to Mugenda, and ultimately he was the one that could speak to him. I haven't heard you really, like, you know, listen to someone in a place of teaching like that ever since I've known you. Not to that degree, and it was right. Also,
it was like this. It was like I had to get rooted, and you know, my roots, my blood roots come from Africa. So, you know, listening to Mugenda was like listening to my dad and my grandfather. I even told Mugenda that, because when we were doing the fire ceremonies and everything, you know, I was like, man, I'm having a crazy deja vu right now, because it's like, well, you know, I've heard all this before. I've heard all this from my grandfather, from my dad, from my uncles and stuff, and you know, and they were just basically tools to guide me through the spirit world.
Yeah,
those, and in life.
Those teachings really work with the medicine.
Yeah.
They activate the medicine. They help people to navigate the medicine. And I could see that as well. He had a profound sense of deja vu, of coming home, that was unique for him. And I also did the medicine because I learned it was very good for PTSD. And that was something that I had been struggling with. I'd been through other medicine experiences and still had this deeply rooted shield, like just so protective. And it was painful to carry that caution all the time, and that fear. And so that's what led me there. So I had a different feeling. I definitely felt so grateful, so resonant. It's the primary medicine that guides me now. So we approached it for different reasons, and that was really amazing. I felt his ancestors when we were there. I felt his ancestors like a stadium rooting for him on the spiritual levels of just like, welcome home.
Yeah.
So even though,
what it was.
My
welcome back.
My roots are in Europe and a lot of Native American ceremony. I grew up with Native American ceremony, and that set a foundation for me to be open to other forms of medicine and ceremony. So I definitely appreciated it. I love that medicine, but it was awesome to watch his process and feel his process with it.
So I'd love to hear more about the ceremony itself. So the two of you went in together, or were you doing the medicines separately in different rooms? Just tell us everything about exactly how it went down.
Both. It's both, because well, we were next to each other for 2 ceremonies in an 8-day retreat. But Mugenda made this very clear, and this was resonant for us, that you have to go in for yourself.
You have to go in for yourself.
And you are working on yourself. In order to have a healthy relationship, you work on yourself.
Yeah.
So he said, tonight you're divorced, and tomorrow you can be together, but tonight... That
was more like towards our second ceremony, yeah. But
both.
Yeah, but when our first ceremony, like, I didn't know what to expect, because I went in there scared as fuck. Really, I was really scared, and because I didn't know what the hell was going to happen, I started seeing stuff online about freaking people dying and stuff, and just bad experiences. Not bad experiences,
dying,
but like
literally or figuratively.
Literally.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of cases on the internet. Not a lot. There's some cases on the internet that there are deaths.
Yeah.
And that was part of our research, was learning, this is one of the most volatile and complex plant medicines that we know of, that they're letting out of the jungle, at least.
You gotta take it serious.
It's very intense and intricate with the heart. So what we learned was that in those cases, especially if you look at the study done by Kenneth Alpert and his associates over 2 decades, looking at all the deaths from Iboga and Ibogaine, is that it was mixed with contraindicated drugs. Yeah. It was held by inexperienced people.
Yeah.
It was the wrong dose. It was contraindicated medical conditions, people not knowing what they were doing and being alone.
So you said they were alone, like they were all by themselves eating Iboga.
Some were all alone with massive doses, or there were inexperienced providers, or contraindicated medical condition, or contraindicated drugs. They were mixing it with other things that have a reaction with Iboga. So there were these different reasons. And it's still, the field is still on the frontier. Like, people are still learning a lot about it. I just went to the Global Ibogaine Therapy Conference this last year, which was amazing. All kinds of doctors and scientists and Bwiti shamanic people there together, sharing information, because there's still a lot to learn. For example, the traditional shamanic community, especially from Africa, might not be familiar with some of the medical conditions or pharmaceutical drugs that we're dealing with in the West. So important to know those interactions. And then the scientific community, the medical community, has a lot to learn about the shamanic technologies from the people that have been honed for thousands of years. So there's still some things to learn. And sadly, what can happen sometimes is that a really great provider, this happened to a friend of ours in Canada, where the medicine is unregulated. Someone came in and wasn't honest about a medical condition that was really important, and it sent him into an arrhythmia and into the emergency room because they weren't forthright. Someone really wants to get treated and they're not being honest. So once in a while, these kinds of things will happen, or someone who's struggling with addiction, sneaking in drugs and not giving the medicine a chance to work. And it's fatal, to take opiates after Iboga, a ceremonial dose of Iboga is in your system. So sometimes these things can happen even with really great protocol. I feel like the community is getting better and better and better all the time at developing safe protocol. Prohibition is a tremendous obstacle. Prohibition is stunting research. It's stunting the flow of information and what we can learn. So a little bit about the dangers. Yeah,
a lot of it sounds kind of very similar to ayahuasca. And so the Iboga conference was produced by ICEERS, which is based here in Barcelona, and they also do the ayahuasca conference. So I'll be going to the World Ayahuasca Conference in October. And it does sound like, too, in a similar way, it is a mix of, medical researchers and, doctors and scientists and shamans, because there's so much information sharing that needs to be done. So going back to that, ceremony that you participated in, can you describe what that was like? Was that a traditional ceremony?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, most definitely it was a traditional ceremony, even though it took place in Costa Rica, but we've been to actual real ceremony. We went to Africa.
This was 6 months after.
Yeah, like
you
8
went to
months.
Gabon?
Yeah, we went to Gabon. Yeah, we went to Gabon.
After his healing.
And joined the tribe. Yeah, we joined the Bwiti. She went through the rite of passage. I went through the rite of passage. We both went through the initiation, and we also got married out there, in a real wedding. So, if you getting down to the nitty gritty of the actual ceremony, you're talking about like from 7 at night till 7 in the morning in Africa. Yeah.
Tell him what he calls it.
Oh, it was more like a.
That's longer than a peyote ceremony, and those are long.
And it's like a freight train on a roller coaster ride.
On a rocket ship.
That's
what the ceremony's like.
That's what it is. It's like, you're moving with spirits, and you're dancing all night, and you're dressed up Bwiti style, and it's really, the whole temple turns into like a freaking rocket ship. So it's like,
so is there drumming, for example? Is there singing?
Non-stop music, singing all night.
Or rock.
Is the tribe also eating Iboga with you, or are you only the only ones eating Iboga?
Pretty much everybody gets a ceremonial dose, but during initiation, when you go through initiation, that's when they really they pump you up. They pump you up full of medicine, and then they blast off.
Does it make you vomit?
You can.
Yeah. Oh, well, the ceremony in Costa Rica was also a traditional ceremony, but it was just Mugenda and one apprentice. So it was very simple, but they used all the ceremonial elements. They're working with the spirits. It starts with a ritual fire and oral transmission from this oral tradition, and specific kinds of shamanic guidance and protection, spiritual protection. So it was very, very simple, but still traditional. And then in Africa, it was just opulent. It was very powerful,
real deal.
Very collective. But yeah, it can definitely make you throw up. Even though he was there to detox, I threw up like 6 or 7 times.
You would have thought she was detoxing. Yeah.
Though what I was detoxing was my addiction to.
You could detox for somebody else, easily.
And what I realized is how much our lives were connected on very subtle levels, And I was addicted to negative thoughts and resentment and fears, and on very deep habitual levels. Iboga made me more aware of my mind more than any other medicine. I'm really grateful for all of my medicine experiences, but Iboga was such an initiation of really what's happening on all the layers of the mind, from conscious to unconscious. And I realized every thought we have can produce biochemical poison or biochemical medicine, cortisol, adrenaline, or it can produce oxytocin, right? It can really produce these different elixirs in the body. And so I had a lot of those toxins stored up in me, and they were all coming out. I realized a lot of my habitual thoughts, were very powerful. Like Mugunda says, look at any skyscraper around you. They all started with a thought. That's how thoughts can manifest in the world in a very concrete level. I realized how my thoughts were affecting my relationship and my life, and how many of my decisions were fear-based, despite my good intentions. So it really helped to rewire in a positive way.
It's a good navigational tool, like especially after you go through ceremony and after you do medicine. It's like you learn how to control your mind and not let your mind control you, and navigate through life easier, sort of. Yeah. And when it comes to the ceremonies, yes, they deal with all the elements and the senses, and you are definitely schooled in all those areas of importance, because they are important when you really think about it and you really look at it, and versus the day-to-day matrix that we live in. Mm-hmm. And how that manipulates us and controls us, when, like I said before, you have to get rooted to really understand yourself, what's going on within. Then you know how to focus on the outside and navigate and control your life better. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful medicine, and but you also have to participate and make it happen. You have to participate in your own recovery. Mm-hmm. So I took recovery tools that I learned from being in 12-step programs and all that stuff in the past. The lessons that I learned from my grandfathers and fathers, then the lessons that I learned from Mugunda. I took all those tools and combined them into one, and when I went into the spirit world to heal myself, I had to do a lot of cleaning up in there. And when I did that, I noticed things getting lighter and lighter, because it was just a darkness. I was consumed by darkness. And once I started getting rid of the darkness, like I can give you an example. Like I became a superhero within myself called Love Man. I had a cape and everything. And I went in and I saw all this demonic, like just craziness, darkness, the nothing. And I grabbed a piece of it, and it was just like some negativity. It's like a little sign that said negativity or drugs or, fear. And I was like, what am I going to do with this? And like some trash can popped up, and I threw it in the trash can, and I was like, no, that's not good enough. And then like some gas can and a lighter popped up, and I poured gasoline on it, set it on fire. I was like, oh, no, that's still not good enough. Then a grenade formed in my hand, and then threw it in there, and it just blew up. I said, now there you go. And then it just turned into some form of like mental video game, and I'm just grabbing all this negativity and darkness. I'm doing some real cleaning. I'm shoving it in the trash can and just setting on fire and blowing it up. And it was doing that the entire ceremony, the entire night, like in the corner, in the periphery, in my peripheral vision. And I started noticing the darkness start turning into like a light red and getting like really clean, and just transforming my life like no other. And I've tried all the other plant medicines. Nothing compares. I'm not saying that they're not, I'm not saying that they don't do what they're supposed to do, because all plant medicines are in cahoots, and they all work together.
And they're helpful and at different times too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For many different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But this plant medicine really brought me back. It actually like brought me back to the point where like I left off at before I started going back into lesson, as I call it, and then some, yeah, but it's a plant medicine, like we were just talking about. It's brain surgery and heart surgery at the same time, soul surgery. Well, actually, no, your soul is infinite, so it's like you actually connect with your soul. And when you connect with your soul, you're home. And when you make amends with your soul, you are like, you're gold. So I had to do that. Once I made amends with my soul, with myself, I was like, wow. It was like finding my brother. Like finding my inner brother. Yeah, and it just, and he forgave me. He forgave me, but he said, don't do it again, or I'm going to fuck you up. That's what he said.
Wow. So I'm just going to highlight and, for that, what you just said for all of us here, making amends with your soul. And, when I hear that, it makes me realize too, that is in a sense like the core of true healing, because when we are fragmented for whatever reasons, through whatever traumas that we've gone in life, and we're not in alignment with our soul, and we're maybe even in just in an adversarial relationship with our soul, then there's so much pain, and so much negativity can come in from that, from emotional pain to psychological imbalances and addictions even. So making amends with your soul, I like that a lot.
And then when not to cut you off, but when it comes to negativity, and I developed a way that helps me navigate through negativity, because negativity is not going anywhere. There's a balance in life. And you just need to know how to control that negativity. Just like how you control the positive things in your life, you can control the negative things in your life. So whenever, I have that negative thought or something negative happens, I am like, I basically just say, next, keep it simple, and then it goes away.
Jedi training is every day.
It's Bwiti Jedi training.
It's the OG Jedi training.
Yeah. Next. Even if I have to keep it on repeat. As long as it's gone. And it goes just like that. It's that simple. We tend to overcomplicate things. And we need to really understand that we can, it's right in front of our face. It's right there. We can do it. It's next.
All right, so I just want to be mindful of time, because there's a few more questions I want to ask you, and one really juicy one that I know that the audience of Entheonation will absolutely love. What is the difference between ayahuasca ceremony and Iboga ceremony?
Sure.
She
Yeah,
can answer that. I'll answer it too, but she can.
I went through ayahuasca ceremony once or twice a year for the good part of a decade before coming to Iboga, and the ceremonies that I went to were with a Brazilian maestro, and the person that another person that he trained and empowered sometimes. And it's such a different spirit, you know. Aya is so feminine and really helped clear a lot of blockages in my body and awaken Kundalini and feel a true primal healthy sense of my womanhood and femininity. It was very healing to the body, and the Iboga is, for me, well, they say it's a dual gender spirit, that it can be the father or the mother. And they also call it the Godfather medicine, in that it's the dreamer, the progenitor of all sacred medicines. That a lot started with that plant. And it's more, the ceremony itself feels more of a masculine spirit also. In ways, so that's what the difference for me.
I used to think she was crazy when she used to talk about ayahuasca all the time. It was like I was like, you know, I was on my militant sober life, and I was like, nah,
sober.
You know, I'm not gonna do that, never. And I'm not about the psychedelic life, even though I've experienced a lot of LSD and mushrooms and stuff my whole life, or not my whole life, but in my younger life. But when I first did ayahuasca with her, you know, one time, you know, it opened up a door for me to where I felt like it opened up a door for me to where I relapsed, and because I felt like, oh, you know, I guess I must have felt so good that I was just like, oh, well, maybe I can get away with this then, you know, and started, you know, partying a little bit more. And I'm not placing blame on ayahuasca, but I'm saying that's what happened, because it literally did after I did it, you know.
One thing that came up in conversation was that, you know, with my Aya teacher and also with him, was that maybe the Aya was awakening something that would lead him to a deeper healing that he needed.
And that's what
picture.
That's what happened. She the shaman woman that brought us through the ayahuasca ceremony, she brought that to her attention, and what she said was, you know, these plants work in mysterious ways, pretty much, you know. So it's basically, like I said earlier, that they're in cahoots, because it's like ayahuasca led me to Iboga, you know. And so you ask the difference between ayahuasca and Iboga is 110% different, you know. Like I said, I only tried ayahuasca one time, and I think that I'm good on that one, but like it didn't bring me there as much as Iboga did. Because I'm a visual person. I'm an artist. Like, I need to see this shit. I need to see.
It can be
visual, you know?
Also.
And I understand ayahuasca can be visual. And there was some, it was visual in a different context. But Iboga was real. Like, it was so real that I was just like, is this really fucking happening? Is this really happening right now? I couldn't believe it.
Well, there was something very special and destined with him and Iboga. For me, I feel a resonance and a connection to different plant medicines at different times. And especially because we can't get Iboga here. Like, I'll go sit in Native American church with Wachuma and feel Iboga through Wachuma. You know, that's how I work with it. And there was something remarkable with their connection that was ancient. It was
It's
really
roots.
amazing.
It's root. It's African roots. There's no doubt about it. It's in my blood. It's in everybody's blood. All these plant medicines are within everybody. They help create us. So we have a relationship with them that we need to acknowledge. And these freaking pharmaceutical companies are these devils that just want to keep you blind. You can go ahead and stay blind, but if you feel a calling to wanting to or needing to heal yourself, they're put here for a reason. They're put here to wake you up. And take the red pill. Take the red pill, because you will wake up and overstand yourself. Like I said, 110%.
One reason I wrote the book was because I was telling people, this medicine saved my husband's life, and 90% of the people I talked to had never heard of it.
Mm.
They had no idea, and it was very volatile. The friend he learned about it from originally had a very not a positive experience, and he was approaching it. I feel like without ceremony, without respect, without knowledge.
He did that. That was the thing he did.
It wasn't an ideal situation. The medicines will not be exploited.
Yeah.
So we want to help educate people and help keep people safe and help support people in understanding the best ways to approach this medicine. And, I just want to mention that the book is not just a chronicle of addiction and recovery.
No.
That's a part of it.
Yeah. Iboga is not... It's okay, yeah, it'll help you with your addiction, but it's going to help you with everything that you're addicted to. You know what I mean? Everything. So it's gonna heal more than just your addiction if you let it.
It helped to heal our relationship. Our book is,
oh my gosh,
just to say, it's a love story. It's a love story, and that was one of the things that the medicine wanted to help heal for us was intimacy, sensuality, sexuality, sacred union. And, I noticed that most of the books out are written by Western men in the world of psychedelic literature. And this is definitely from the voice of the feminine. There was a lot of transmissions in my vision about the divine feminine and love. So that rich element is there. And there's also a communication between our Iboga experiences and the teachings we've had with yoga, meditation, tantra. There's a rich cross-pollination that's happening there too.
It's not a magic bullet. It works if you work it. And the thing is like, people have these expectations. Well, you need to learn to let the expectations go, because and really understand that it's deeper than your expectation, and you have to you need to really learn yourself in order to heal yourself. So like she brought up a friend of mine that's how I found out about it beforehand, was that he ordered it online. And which is a no-no, because you got to go through the ceremonial context, the ceremonial container, in order for this to really work. And he did all that. He did that, and just to get off heroin, and it worked for him, but it didn't work for him because he didn't have that container and the shamanic ways, and then it ended up kicking his ass in the long run, because he thought he had a magic bullet that every time he could mess around or party a little bit, and I got this magic bullet over here, straighten me right out. No. That's a big no.
He was trying to manipulate in the medicine.
Yeah.
To
the medicine's like
impure ends.
Okay, I'm gonna show you something. I'm gonna teach you a little something, my friend. And it really did a number on him.
But that said, it's beautiful medicine in the right hands.
So, how complete was the healing from heroin addiction for you? You know, speaking of the magic bullet thing, like, is it something where you feel like you've gone through one ceremony and now you were like done with heroin? Or is it going to take a couple or more ceremonies to really get it fully out of your system?
110%. Within 24 hours, I was done because, like, you know, I also know that, like, the clean time that I had before, the 13 years, also played a major role into it. And then I went back into lesson for 5 years, you know, abusing myself. But once I got back on track, it was like I said, it was like within 24 hours, I was a brand new person. And, you know, the addiction, everything was just like, you know, the cravings or whatever, it was gone. They were gone.
And I saw.
Yeah.
What I saw, Lorna. We walked in there with this toxic, possessed Goliath. Like, his soul was so polluted. I could barely recognize him in his behavior, could barely recognize him in his face. And 24 hours after that first journey, it looked like he had 10 facials and just did a triathlon, and his eyes were clear. He looked 10 years younger, and I could see his spirit again. I do feel that the second journey, you know, the first journey was the detox for both of us, and the second journey was a crystalline, clear transmission of the way, of the deeper teachings from the spirit worlds, you know, so when we were clean, we could enter that place. But it was also very helpful to connect with our Bwiti community and to go to Africa 6 months later and to continue to work with the medicine very periodically to stay connected. So it's a bigger picture of community. You know, community is so important to be able to talk to people about what we went through and integrate.
Yeah, but one of the major factors, and this is one of the Bwiti ways, is that during that process, and it also came to me intuitively too, that I had to get honest with myself and real truthful and tell the truth about everything in order for this medicine to work. And once I did that, flying colors. I was, you know, like I said, 24 hours. But definitely, Elizabeth brings up a good point. Integration, when it comes to integration into, you know, the matrix, the world.
Did you say the Hatrix?
No, the Matrix.
The Matrix, okay, but that's a good one too. The Matrix and the Hatrix, right?
The rat race, the conditioning.
The integration is definitely key, and it's definitely important because it's like, it's, you know, you're reborn again. You're like a new baby.
This is some of his integration.
Yeah.
Here behind us, peek of one of the 3 paintings he painted straight off the bat. Mm-hmm. The first one is on the book cover. I wrote the book. Like, these are great forms of our integration. So
yeah,
I know.
Yeah, actually, Aubrey Marcus just blessed himself with one of those paintings. So
Aubrey Marcus is the new owner of the Love Dance, which is on the cover of the book, which is amazing, because the little magical story there was that his podcast with Joe Rogan was, for us, a pivotal factor in our journey to get to Iboga and to trust that medicine. And then he ended up, you know, and a big portion of that went to support MAPS, because we gave 30% of that to MAPS to support that research. So it's a magical story with that.
Yeah.
Part of his integration.
That podcast really helped and another testimonial video by one of my Bwiti brothers. His name's Jeff. Jeff Cook, who runs Iboga Wellness Center with his father, Gary Cook, and another Bwiti brother, Steve. I forgot his name. Steve Callahan.
Roots Healing.
He's Roots Healing, and and they run a good, nice little tight ship out in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
And his testimony was something that I related to because we were pretty
5
much
gram
on
a
the
day
same.
Heroin addict at points. 5 gram a day that recovered with the medicine.
Yeah, and he recovered with the medicine, and that's what really sold me. And then looking at Magunda's videos, testimonial videos, or his videos about Iboga House when it was around, I can just sense that he was a real dude. That he was the way he talked on. He's not fucking around. He is a real dude, and that had me going right there. But as I was saying before, integration is key. Meditation, yoga, some simple things in life. Don't make it too complicated. It's not that hard, Yeah.
So on that note, I'm going to wrap up this interview. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I feel the love from both of you, and I think it's really important for people to know that there are alternatives to the conventional ways of treating addiction, and that something as powerful as this visionary plant medicine that has been used for thousands of years can heal heroin addiction in one ceremony. That we need to know that. We need to know that that's there. Thank you. So how can people best stay in touch with you?
You can find me on Instagram or all the social networks, at Chor Boogie, ChorBoogie, or you can just go to my website, chorboogie.com. That's how you can find me. Yeah. Or Google that name.
Yeah. Likewise, I'm Bast or Nectar Bast on Instagram. I have a Facebook page, and my website is ebast, ebast.net, light network altogether. And there's also a page dedicated to Iboga where I keep fresh, very vital information and resources and links to organizations like MAPS and ICERS and Gita. They're all there. So if anyone's curious, also there's links to some providers that have trained through our shaman, and just really, really useful info.
And we'll also
share that link with us so we can include it in the show notes.
Yeah, and we'll also be putting information on modern hieroglyphics. You can find that on Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah, Modern Hieroglyphics magazine.
Yeah.
And one other thing, you can find heart medicine now on Amazon, on Barnes & Nobles, and Book Depository, which ships worldwide. And there's links to that on my site as well. So it's from an independent press, so the reviews really help. Post about it on social media. It's great help to get this story of love and healing out there.
It's the truth.
Thank you so much, and you have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you, too. You too.
Thank you, Lorna.